and I can't talk to him in this state. So we are literally going back and forth here like a patrol guard dog waiting for Unkid. I think that's how you pronounce it. Unkid, the Sultan of the Aserai here, to finish seizing this castle. Of course, we're sort of defending him, but we're independent right now. We recently repudiated our mercenary agreement with Khazate, and now we want to talk to this guy here and swear fealty, at least ostensibly, right? Supposedly, purportedly. Sure, we're ready. We're very interested in being a vassal for 2 months before we take over your sultanate. He's going to give us some troops here, it looks like. We accept. Calls us a friend now. I don't think he'll be calling us a friend by fall time. And it gives us a nice banner here. We can move faster. And then a horse that will probably... We need to find a wife. We'll see if there's anybody that they have. We'd like to... Let's see. I'd like to propose a marriage. My own hand. Nidha. She is thoroughly conventional. That's for sure. But she's young. I suppose we could probably consider that as a wife. Here we go. We are part of the Aserai Sultanate. We are going to skip the part where we kneel here because we're not going to be kneeling to anybody in this little practice run here. We are going to act belligerent almost from the get-go. And sure, we'll marry this gal. How much does she cost? Cost the price of a small compact car? You know, that seems fair to me. What, maybe 40,000? I have plenty of gold. Lots of gold, of course. We've raked in huge amounts of money when we helped the Khazate. That may, well, actually, that is the last episode that I filmed. I don't know if I'm going to include, well, actually, I will for sure include this in the next episode just to show you the process. We are swearing fealty, and we are now part of the Aserai realm. So we'll call our wife to us here. I think now women can get pregnant across the map, which is kind of odd. It was difficult before. To get women pregnant, you'd have to have them in your party. People rumored you had to like drink wine and shit like that, and all kinds of bizarre housewife rumors. When in reality, I think just proximity would work. What's this? Already a problem here. Of course, it seems like the Aserai haven't won a battle in this entire campaign without our help. I don't know if they've won a single battle except maybe against looters and some desert raiders. Look at this. Even with our help, they're like almost favored to lose. So we'll give this a shot here. Immediately entering the service of the Aserai. We got a nighttime battle here with our fire arrows. And we'll see what we got going on here. We got some help here. We're not alone in this battle. But since it's the AI, sometimes that's worse than being alone. It would be better, actually, if we had control of their troops. Because who knows what they'll do. They'll probably charge headlong, outnumbered, 5-1. So we're going to configure our units like I normally do. I apologize for this being the case over and over again. That's because we keep joining battles. Shit, this is a finger fumble. Okay, we're back in charge of Zuvan there. And I think we're going to try and flank. Now, flanking is almost always the best route when you have an ally just willing to be the crash test dummies for you. Right? Flanking is coming at the enemy from the side. This is a very basic thing, but it's almost always successful in Bannerlord because the AI doesn't know how to handle multiple angle attacks. So we got a little land bridge here. I can sort of triangulate my troops across there, and then we will come in hard on the enemy's left. Ironically, Napoleon was a huge fan of flanks, but at the Battle of Borodino, his chance to really crush the Russians in the 1812 invasion and campaign, he had a possibility to do a huge sweeping flanking maneuver. In fact, Marshal Davout recommended it, but Napoleon dismissed it as too risky, I think was his quote. And instead, they opted for a full frontal assault, which proved to be very bloody. Where are their forces? They're crossing the river? How interesting. We crossed the river to flank them, and now they're crossing the river. I don't think this is... Well, I'm sure this is not nefarious, intentional... diabolical, right? The enemy doesn't do any such thing. Who knows what they're doing here? They look like they're off to a Halloween trick-or-treating contest, but it doesn't matter. We've still got the river between them and us, and we've got a lot of ranged troops, so we'll simply switch sides here. We will observe their side, right? They are fighting with the allied forces here, so we want to engage them sooner than later so we can take advantage of the fact that these Aserai I guess the whatever the opposite of a vassal is a suzerain or whatever, that these guys are essentially saying, we're fighting for them, when in reality in this campaign, I swear the Aserai have not won a significant battle without our help. So our unit should be in place soon. I'm going to cut a few guys down here, trying not to get killed, and then the fire arrows and fire crossbow bolts should start raining in, and this battle should go sideways for the enemy really quick. Now, just to finish that point, Napoleon had a chance. For whatever reason, right, he was concerned, he was nervous at the Battle of Borodino. He's 1,200 miles or whatever from Paris. It had been an extremely long campaign. Supposedly, he was ill at this very famous battle, part of the Napoleon invasion. Now, the French still technically won. It was a technical victory over the Russians because the Russians withdrew the next day, but it was unbelievably bloody for both sides. I think it was the most deaths in a battle, maybe in European history at that stage, something like 60,000 or something. It was horrendous. The Russians lost massive amounts of troops. The French lost massive amounts of troops. I mean, it was a battle of like 120,000 versus 100,000. And Napoleon twice hesitated towards kind of the end of his reign. And these basically proved fatal. Had he used the old guard and really crushed the Russian center and forced them into a huge rout, the Russians might have capitulated. And also, had they performed a flanking maneuver that Marshal Davout recommended, it's definitely possible with some swift-moving cavalry getting units on their side that would have also broke the Russian forces, neither of which happened. I'll save the rest of the story for another time, but ultimately that was one of the big turning points in Napoleon's career, in the reign of the French Empire in the early 1800s. All right, so we're just kiting a little bit here. We've been pounding the enemy as they cross the... Oh, shit, the guy's trying to kill me with the fucking two-handed spear. Nothing will kill you faster than that. And then a cavalry running, 40 miles an hour, full-on two-handed spear to your face. Even with good armor, a lot of times that kills you in one shot, as it should. You can only imagine that the spear would go totally through you. Now the enemy, I don't know what they're doing. Their archers are running sideways in the water, and they're getting just shot to pieces and butchered. I don't even know if we have to use our main body of infantry here. I guess we can. In this battle, we have completely just confusticated the enemy. They're totally flabbergasted. They don't have any kind of answer to our surrounding attack. We've got archers at two different locations, just immolating them. It looks especially cool with all the flames, right? They're getting flamed. We could charge at this division here and wrap this fight up. We're not going to have a huge amount of these fights. I'm showing you this because it happened immediately after we swore allegiance to the Aserai here, and immediately we enter the service. And of course, I'll talk a little bit about my plan as being a vassal. Of course, we're only using the Aserai. This is very temporary. It's almost strictly because this is the only real way to gain influence. You need influence. The two main things you need besides troops and some companions of skill and experience. This guy's just letting me beat the shit out of him. You need influence and you need gold, right? Well, you achieve gold through being a mercenary. We got up to like 500,000 in a very short period of time, and we actually have a lot more wealth than that because of all the units we've recruited, all the gear we have. We've probably acquired 1 million plus in money, in etc., gold and loot. But the other thing you need influence, and you don't gain influence as a mercenary. In fact, you lose it. Now, technically, you gain influence as a mercenary, but there's, for whatever reason, I'm not quite certain the dynamics, you lose influence every single day as a mercenary. So you get it like in battles and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm going to whip out my spear. I am fucking miserable with the spear. I really do feel like sometimes I'm speaking Latin in Japan when I break out weapons I'm not familiar with. And of course, going against like a fucking Imperial Cataphract with weapons you're not comfortable with is not an advised strategy. So you need money and influence. And of course, we achieved money through being a mercenary. Obviously, that's the whole point of it. If you remember in that huge battle where we held it to the last on the beach, I literally, instead of yelling, "For glory," for our men, I facetiously yelled, "For money," right? Because our troops aren't actually fighting for glory or for the realm. We're fighting for money. The more people we kill, the more money we make. Well, now it's the opposite. Now we're not really gaining a huge amount of money, although the loot will be nice. We're not being paid, though, anymore by the Aserai, we are acquiring influence, right? We are acquiring good relations. We're making all these Aserai folks friendly. That really doesn't matter because very soon we're going to declare our independent kingdom and give a middle finger to everybody, the Aserai, the Southern Empire, the Khazate, everybody, right? We're just going to give a huge fuck you to everybody and see what we can do. But I'm basically describing this for players that are sort of maneuvering their way through. The whole point of being a mercenary, besides gaining experience, gaining levels, gear, equipment, troops, upgrading shit, is gaining money, right? You need that money being a mercenary, and then once you become a vassal, you're gaining influence. Now, I don't have a set number that you would declare independence at, like at maybe a million dinars. We killed, an Aserai lord died there. We're going to help them with the siege here. And it looks like it's going to be a tough... Well, actually, they should heal. They're starting to heal. So actually, this won't be a difficult siege. I can continue my spiel here. I don't actually have a set number because, again, I don't have a lot of experience in early game campaigns. Obviously, I'm experienced in combat. I have a pretty good understanding of how to play. But this is going to be fly by the seat of my pants kind of thing, right? We're going to... or maybe I'm mixing my metaphors as I do oftenly. We're going to basically, once we get... I don't know, maybe 500,000 gold, but more importantly, maybe 1,000 influence. We're gonna declare independence and see how it goes. Now, obviously, I'm not gonna play this campaign to completion. I'm skipping large swaths of the boring stuff for you guys, but I do want to include a few of these little nuggets, just so that you guys sort of have an idea of what's going to happen in the main campaign. And also, this is vital for me to relearn. I understand this is a little bit of a spoiler, right? I'm doing like a whole campaign before later on I do a whole campaign. And wary of that, I will probably only do 5 or 6 of these episodes. And of course, I'm going to skip a lot of the middle to late game stuff, right? I won't be showing you battles of 1,200 against 1,200. At least I don't think so. We're going to obviously skip a lot of those stages. And again, I am going to play the campaign differently. Right now, my plan, we lost our siege tower. My plan right now is to stall, intentionally make the enemy lords stronger by stalling. Where's the ladders on this thing? I guess it's back. It's back where everybody's running to. I couldn't see them. Sometimes they're camouflaged in the grass. We need somebody with bright neon paint to slosh it all over these ladders, because sometimes they're hard to see. But we're also going to barrel up here aggressively into this keep, because there's some chance that I get this keep for helping. Right? I mean, this whole force would have already been captured by the Southern Empire. They'd be rotting in the dungeon had we not arrived. Right? They were getting absolutely trucked as usual. And they were down to, it looked like 80 or 90 troops when we arrived, and we totally saved the day, crushed the Southern Empire. And now the only reason they're even healing and renewing their siege here is because of us. So we want to be first up the ladder here. We want to score a bunch of kills, because that gives you a better shot, I think, of being elected leader of this city. This is Danustica. I think that's how I'll pronounce it. You guys feel free to correct me. I don't have a lot of lore. I don't have a lot of knowledge in Mount and Blade. I did not play the original, so you guys are going to help me with lore. Or you can make fun of the fact that I don't know this shit. Either way, I'm going to do my best to pronounce this shit. But this city is beautiful. And these are level 2 or 3 walls. I can't tell if they're 2 or 3. I think they're 3, actually. 1, 2, 3. And I want this city, right? So we're going to definitely bleed for this city. We're going to bring troops up here aggressively. I'm going to lead with pizzazz and chutzpah, and choose your ethnical word for leading, with valor, right? We're going to smash our way through this impotent militia here and see if we can't get voted this city, right? Because this would be a great city for us to have as a vassal. As a vassal is when you can start owning cities. You can't own a city, as far as I know, as a mercenary, with the exception of just doing it on your own. And I think at that stage... Actually, I don't know what happens. I think you're independent. That'll be interesting to hear what you guys say about that. Obviously, again, I don't have a massive amount of experience playing Bannerlord in 28 different campaigns, which is why sometimes I'm perplexed that so many people want to see me play a campaign. Maybe they just want to hear me F-bomb in 5 different parts of Calradia and do some tactics. I don't know. For either way, though, here we go. We're doing this campaign. I've never played the Aserai, so this is a lot of fun for me. Are there bombs up here? We're going to take this shit out of the way, motherfuckers. I'm getting up there. I don't give a fuck. And of course, 2 guys with this guy is definitely a hazard. Oh, they're just these stupid rocks. I was hoping it'd be those explodable bombs. It actually doesn't matter. I'm looking at the power bar. This siege is over, so we're just going to aggressively attack the guys at the gate here because we're trying to rack up as many kills as we can. Basically, we're trying to stand out to the Sultan and say, hey, we're deserving. We're the ones that took that beautiful city of Danistica, and you should vote us as one of the possible people in consideration for it, right? That's how it works. Looks like we broke through the gate. You get voted basically as one of the 3 people, and then you present influence to decide to sort of buy with political votes, so to speak, the city rights, right? And then you become the owner. Well, this would be obviously a coup for us to get this beautiful, defendable city, right? A tier 3 city. Now, I've defended this city once. I defended it for an epic siege. I just happened to be down here in one of my campaigns and took it, and then we used the battle size mod and we fought this huge force here. It was actually a really fun defense. But it is defendable. It's not a terrific keep siege or keep defense. Let's see, a city capable of keep siege defense. There are some cities that are much better than others, and I'll talk about that, of course, over the course of the campaign. Look how beautiful this is. There's a river running through it. I mean, Brad Pitt with the river running through it would be satisfied. And we did major damage here. So we'll see what they say here. We saved Arwa. Arwa? She's a good-looking gal there. If she was available, we would consider marriage for her. We would consider sticking our other wife on a horse, charge the enemy in her bikini if Arwa became interested. There's no divorce in Bannerlord. There's more history to that, right? We can talk about the entire reason that the English people abandoned the Catholic Church, right? If you don't know the history of that, I'll get into that a little bit, perhaps in the campaign. The old Henry VIII, give me a fucking divorce, or else we'll just separate from the Catholic Church. And to hell with this wife, she's not giving me kids. Let's behead her for treason and some other shit. We'll take a little stroll down history lane. If there's time during the campaign. Actually, during the campaign, there certainly will be time. Because while I'm kind of flying through this, the campaign I'm definitely going to play uncaffeinated, so to speak. I will still be caffeinated. I love my caffeine. What I mean by that is I won't be in a hurry. Right now, I'm kind of in a hurry because I don't want you guys bored. I don't want you guys seeing every little nook and cranny of a campaign like this. And I'm just trying to get some practice, right? We're failing quests. All this is okay. And now we're just hoping that the vote, there's a Aserai force still in there. We're hoping that the vote yields us Danistica. It's probably not going to happen, but we'll see. We were huge in taking that city. So this is a thing too. I have this party here, this surgeon, Jaminus the surgeon. I stuffed some extra troops into this guy. He's one of our companions. And I can actually now call him to my party. I can actually form a party. You can't do that as a mercenary. You can do this as a vassal, but obviously it takes influence, right? So this is part of the reason you need influence, is to call other people to your army. You need influence to make policies and decisions and shit like that, right? It's like political influence is the best way to think of influence. We're getting a little auto save here. We've got a couple castles. I probably failed to mention this part, or maybe I didn't before. We were given these castles as mercenaries. That's a thing. You can get castles as mercenaries given to you by the leader, right? We already had a couple castles, but that's our first city that we're hoping to snag there. Now I wouldn't mind also Odok, I think is the name of the Khazate city that's nearby. That would be a nice city to seize. And then oh shit, there's a Southern Empire force here heading to our castle. All right, well, we're looking forward to a fight here, and it looks like the Sultan is coming over here to smash this Southern Empire force. I'm not sure they'll attack, actually. Maybe they'll attack if we're close. This is the thing. If you don't know this, they won't attack unless you're near because they're assuming you'll help. Well, we don't have to help here. We can show right away this Sultan who's boss and just let him get slaughtered by the Southern Empire here, captured. And what's funny is then you can attack the Southern Empire and free him. And he's like, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Even though he should see us just at the edges of the battlefield here, shaking his fist like the ultimate traitor, right? It looked like we were going to help. And now we're just going to farm him and let him fight the Southern Empire. I am doing a little bit of perks, kind of working our way through the perk tree here. 20% heal rate in villages. I'll talk a little bit about that, the governor thing, that you can't get any governor perks for yourself. And what I mean by that is you are never the governor. Even if you sit inside the city, you can't be a governor. As far as I know, maybe there's a mod or something that changes it, or maybe I'm ignorant. Please fill in the comments if I'm wrong. I'm often wrong. Ask my wife. So the governor perks only apply to companions, right? We'll talk a little bit about more perks and stuff like that. How I spec my companions. I have a very specific way. No pun intended. We will help this Aserai force because it'll give us more relations. Of course, we're going to get lots of EXP from this. We're leveling all these troops. We're leveling companions. And it's interesting battle, right? We've got the edge, but a lot of guys want to see us fight when we have the edge. So guess what we're going to do here? I'll give you a hint. It starts with F and it's a 5-letter word, right? We are going to flank. We are going to let this dipshit Aserai force crash test dummy smash themselves directly at the enemy. And while they're doing that, we will milk up all the accolades and kills, raining down arrows, javelins, and then we will sweep in infantry and cavalry for the kill. Take a little breath here. Sometimes guys are like, you could, stop talking once in a while, you stupid fuck. You talk the whole time. Drink less caffeine. So occasionally I will just shut the fuck up and let the music and the game play. I'll probably do it most often when there's like chaos and battle happening and you guys don't really want to hear about 28 different tactics that are occurring. Here I do want to talk though. The enemy is forming a classic fatal ring pattern. This is almost like a disease because the enemy doesn't understand that if your archers are all jammed together, the ring defense is worthless, right? I do a very effective and savage ring defense. I've been featuring it on the channel for some months now. I call it the inner circle of hell, but it's a wide ring, not a narrow, tight ring like that. A tight ring like that means their archers are easily shot. We're going to spread our archers out here above the ring. The ring is going to form no protection to our arrows. We're going to be able to rain in arrows here, move up our infantry systematically, surround them with cavalry, and obliterate this Southern Empire force. Of course, comes our crash test dummies. Right? We want to use these guys. We're going to basically allow them to throw themselves at the enemy. It's almost like a double date where your partner, your fella or whoever's filling in for you, dates the gal with onion breath and giant buck teeth so that you can get laid. Right? The Aserai here is doing us a solid. They are not intentional, of course. They're just the AI. Look at their formation. They have infantry spread for some reason. Who knows what the fuck they're doing? I swear I see archers charging too. We have a coherent strategy. The AI has none, and they're getting slaughtered even though the enemy was in a slaughterable position here. Anyways, I digress. All right, so we're doing a little skirmishing here with the enemy's horsemen. Meanwhile, all of the green death spam you see is probably ours. We're raining in arrows from a protected location with infantry in front of it, and almost none of the deaths are our kingdom, right? That was almost entirely the Aserai force there. The crash test dummy looked exactly like what happens when the crash test dummy 70 miles an hour into a car, right? The dummy gets slow motion obliterated through the windshield. You guys have probably all seen it before. You can probably picture it without me explaining it. And that's exactly what the Aserai did here. They got massacred. And what that's going to, they got a few archers running for their lives. And what that's going to allow us to do is rack up kills, attack a weakened enemy, and farm the shit out of them, right? If this was PvP and we had agreed to attack at the same time, our ally would be furious here because we had basically left them in the lurch, collected all the EXP, collected all of the kills in this battle, all the rewards while they did all the hard work and got their asses kicked. But alas, this is not PvP, this is PvE, and the E part of it, imbecility is the I would say it's some kind of bad idiot word with an E. I can't think of one off the top of my head, even though I have a large vocabulary, right? This is some erroneous gameplay, we will say. And the Southern Empire here is cut to ribbons, right? Now, greatly weakened now. Our infantry, I don't even really have them attacking. We'll send these guys in. They were just there in a shield wall throwing javelins, right? So we may have 15 casualties in this whole battle, and our ally, of course, lost their entire force. All right, we'll speed this up. Again, I'm not going to make you guys watch the end of battles that are obviously over. I did want to cover that battle for ring defenses. Obviously, keys are to spread your archers out, get some elevation if you can, and put your troops in multiple locations. Now, if they're shooting back at you from a nasty location, find a location where you can get line of sight on them, but they can't see you very well. That I'm almost certain that exists on every single map. You just have to play with it a little bit. Victory is ours, all these peasants, and I kept these guys back, right? We didn't need to send in our weakest division here. And we rack up tons more skill points. Look at 127 kills, and we had 11 fatalities. So we got more than half of the kills, and we had a 11-to-1 kill ratio. And of course, the Sultan thinks we're badass. At this stage, he's probably considering his adult daughter, or whoever, all of his daughters, for our hand in marriage. I guess technically we already married. It was Anidha. I don't know if that was the Sultan's. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Sultan's daughter. He could marry off like uncles' daughters and shit like that to you. Nevertheless, the point is the Aserai have been completely witless in this campaign, and we've been just saving their ass over and over again. Even though this is our castle, I want to talk a little bit about castles too. I don't care about this castle. I know that seems strange. But this castle is not highly defendable. This castle, I've talked about it before. There are some Imperial castles that are excellent for defense, and they basically look as the same model as Veron Castle. And then there are other castles, and this is one of them, this Castle Lavinia here, where the layout sucks. It's not good for defense. That's all there is to it. The ones that look like Veron Castle, Veron, this is up between Britannian Western Empire and Valandia. They're elite for defense. And I mean at tier 1. I bet with an army of this, like 150, I bet we can defend 1,000 in one of these castles. And that'll be a fun thing to try in this campaign. Because, of course, everybody sees me do it with my mature army. But what a surprise, right? When you have dominant units and level 40 companions. It'll be interesting with brand new companions and a bunch of mediocre troops. And maybe 30 tier 5 if we can't hold out, a tier 1 castle against a massive force. That remains to be seen. That'll probably be part of the campaign videos. Here, so all I'm doing is stuffing some troops in the garrison that I don't feel great about. Basically, for garrisons, what I like to do, of course, is put lots of recruits and archers because the auto-resolve, it actually does pretty decent as long as there's just guys in there. We'll give them a governor. We're doing a few upgrades here. The loyalty is not a concern with castles, but it is with cities, right? So whenever we get a city, I will talk more about loyalty, right? The trained militia and all those parts, it's complicated, but basically you can either be doing construction or you can be doing those little passive things. You can't do both. And again, I will get into that in more detail during the campaign. Now, this is the layout. If you don't know this layout, I will go into details in the campaign in future castle episodes. But it's not a good layout, right? It's not optimal. Anidha, our wife, has joined our party. Excellent. Hopefully she's pregnant immediately. Actually, maybe she got pregnant. I'll look in a second, but hey, how about this, right? We can get Danustica. How beautiful is this? We got to spend the maximum influence, but we can pick up. We don't even have to spend the maximum. So Danustica is ours, and these other lords can eat it. I don't know if that's because we did so well in that siege, or just because we've gotten so much influence now from kicking ass. But Unquid just helped us. There she's pregnant. Somehow I thought I saw she was pregnant already. It must have been one of my other campaigns, one of my 12 other campaigns. All right, so our wife is pregnant. We've got this amazing city, Danustica. Things are going really well here. We're obviously now in the vassal stage. So like I said before, now it's time to start accumulating influence. So we're going to start doing lots of battle. We're going to start seeking out as much battle as possible, right? And of course, the Aserai here seems witless. Oh, shit. Maybe not that much battle. Ragea. How do you pronounce that shit anyways? I have no idea. Ragea. This is good, though. Hopefully she sieges here because we can gain some troops. We can call a lord or two to our aid, and then take down the Southern Empire Empress. We already took Lucan and bitch slapped him and threw him in prison. We ransomed him a little while ago, but now we can take the Southern Empire Empress. She does not have nearly large enough force to save her here. We can stuff our castle full of units here. It's not good units, but again, the auto-resolve does pretty decent, right? This will at least soften her up, and then I think if we recruit some units and or get some help from some other Aserai force, then we can come back and attack her. Obviously, right now, I'm going to run. That's my strategy. When you're up against 3-1 and it's the Empress, 4-1, you run. Not quite sure where she went. She just disappeared. So I don't know. Maybe she's heading to Danustica. Either way, we're gonna fight her. We're not about to let her just take one of our cities. This is also one of the worst parts of the AI. Is right in front of you. You could be just barely out of their line of sight. They will make themselves incredibly vulnerable. Attack a defensive location like a city. Here she goes. She's coming for Lavinia Castle. They will attack a castle just like this, and through the slow attrition of the siege, they will get whittled down to a point where they're vulnerable, where you can then maul them. Look at all these Aserai forces swarming in here like roaches. Now, all of them are tiny little armies. I guess this is because a lot of these guys got butchered in some of the fights, right? Of course, we weren't involved in some of the fights, and they lost. So in they pour. They look like fucking fanboys coming to a concert because they heard that we've got the best music in all of Calradia. They're all following us around like fucking expectant dogs, hoping for a little morsel from our slaughter table. We'll ransom some of these fucks here, recruit a few more troops, and I think what we're gonna do here is boost our force. Right, I've got this garrison here. Temporarily, I think we'll take a lot of this garrison, and we will spread it. Right, I have this other companion here. Technically, I have a wife too, and this is an important element. You can call your own units. In other words, your companions, if they have armies, and you can have your wife make an army, you can call them to your army for free. So I can give her troops, and of course most of you know this. I can give this gal troops. Now she's not much of a warrior. She's running around with a big belly. She's pregnant. But the bottom line is that she's going to get skill out of this, and most importantly, she allows us to expand the amount of troops we can carry in the army, and it's free, right? I can dump all these troops on her. She effectively, just like her carrying the child, she effectively acts like a human carrying device here, carries all these troops. I welcome her to our army for free. It costs no influence. We can then pick up all of the troops that we want, maxed out from the garrison, and that of course allows us to probably get an army approaching 400 for free. In other words, if we have the troops in our city, if we recruit them in towns and stuff like that, we will end up with a pretty sizable force, right? We have this other surgeon guy that's running around with us here, and I'm just dumping a bunch of food on Danustica here because this is good for the prosperity of the city, right? I will keep the beer and the nice food, but you dump a bunch of grain and fish on them. Evidently, they're all pescatarians, right? They're fish eaters. They don't actually, meat is like the least taken up by the city, which is odd because, of course, speaking as an American, most Americans eat meat way more than we're supposed to, right? We're carnivores. We're supposed to, or at least we're omnivores. We're supposed to eat meat, but Americans eat meat 3 times a day, and half of them complain if they don't get it twice a day. This is a feature of wealth. Of course, there's studies that show the correlation between countries and wealth, and meat consumption rocket through the roof. It's like we still have aristocracy worship because the nobles ate meat and got gout for 500 years. We want to copy their bad habits. So now Americans are experiencing not gout necessarily, but all the health consequences of eating meat 3 times a day. Anyways, that whole segment was to say that in Bannerlord, your cities actually don't uptake meat very well. If you dump a bunch of grain, let's just say, for example, you dumped a bunch of grain, equal amounts of grain, fish, and meat on the city. In other words, you sell it to the market. If you don't know this dynamic, what happens then is that encourages prosperity to go up, right? Eventually the amount of food that the city has maxes out at like 700 or a little bit higher, depending on the level. And once it hits that, then the prosperity of the city moves up. And you can think of prosperity as population. In fact, I like to think of it as like 1-to-1 or 10-to-1. So a city with a prosperity, oh shit, Okay, well, this is not gonna, this won't work. This city's gonna fall, or this castle's gonna fall at this other Southern Empire force, so we can't, we're not letting this fucking other force join them. Just like Caesar, divide and conquer, we're gonna cut this force off. I think they might attack us. They got a weak force though. I think we can shoo them away and then attack the castle, because if we don't do that, we're gonna lose. Shit, he's still coming anyways. I'm not quite sure how to do this. He's got more troops coming, but if we don't attack the castle soon, we're going to lose the castle. We're probably going to have to fight both of these forces. To be continued about prosperity, the city, and a bunch of over meat-eating Americans. We got a battle here, and it's a sizable battle. The power bar is almost even though we're outnumbered, and that's because at this stage we have very good troops, and the enemies typically don't. Again, for my main campaign in a month or two, I will almost certainly be changing this so that enemy lords aren't just fucking paper bags that you just shred. Hopefully they will have real armies. Still, this represents a threat in that we can't suffer a huge amount of consequences here if we're going to attack Regia, right? We'll call her Regia. I don't know if that's right or not. I apologize if I'm butchering the lore of the all-important Bannerlord, but we'll do our best. Nidha, she's a cavalry woman. So let's see, I've got no one for the 6th. I can stick her on the 6th. I've got this archer guy. The surgeon has no skills. It doesn't really matter too much at this stage. We're going to be able to mangle this force, but I still want to enact some tactics here because of what I just said, right? I want to have a clean battle so that we have maybe 50 casualties or less. That way we can turn right back around and bitch slap Regia, defeat both of these armies in detail. This is the military term for this, where you fight these armies separately in detail, right? One at a time. It's effectively what Napoleon was trying to avoid at the Battle of Waterloo, right? He was trying to fight and destroy the English. I think it was before the Prussians joined. There was another army that was joining the English, and it was instrumental that the English held out long enough at Waterloo. Anyways, my history on that, as you can tell, is a little bit fuzzy. I haven't brushed up on that as much lately. I know quite a bit about it, but obviously everybody has limitations to what they can remember. So that was Wellington. Anyways, let me get back to tactics here. That's part of the reason my brain is struggling. I'm trying to think of a game plan here and do history. That's probably ill-advised. So what I'm planning on doing here, surprise, surprise, right? Reverse slope defense. I've got a slope to do it. I've got more archers, or at least comparable bottom archers to the enemy, and we have 2 strong infantry lines with mobile cavalry. We have all of the ingredients here for successful ridge defense. Even though the angle is suboptimal, I think we can still make it work. The enemy attacked us, so they must come to us, right? That's a vital portion of this. If we attack them, they would not come over the ridge, probably. We would be forced to attack them, right? So if you're going to try the peekaboo ridge, the reverse slope decline strategy like this, you must have those necessary ingredients. Now, they do have mostly archers, although they have a lot of infantry, too. It's kind of a mix of archers and infantry, but critically, they don't have a massive amount of cavalry. A reverse slope defense does not work particularly well against lots of cavalry. I would say if the enemy has a third of their force or more as cavalry, don't try this. It won't work. And I don't know if I want to hold this upper ridge or the lower one. I'm still kind of getting a feel for the angles. I'm literally looking at where forces are. I'm sort of drawing out the archers and then looking at their line of sight. I think it actually makes more sense for us to go down behind the ridge behind us. In other words, on the other side. The enemy might even be able to start shooting at some of our guys soon. They are shooting at some of the guys. And there's nothing wrong with adjusting your strategy, right? Basically, one of the most vital things for any person, not I was going to say battlefield commander, but any person in life, is being able to admit when you're wrong. Being wrong isn't like some crime. And one of the things that the very worst leaders, I won't name any names, but we'll just say some of the worst leaders just refuse to admit when they're wrong. They're always right. They don't need any help from anybody. Admitting you're wrong is just basically one of the most critical attributes a human can have, right? You're showing humility. You're showing that you have the introspection to understand that sometimes you don't exactly know what's going on, right? Sometimes that happens to me as a battlefield commander, and sometimes I set up the ridge defense here and it's suboptimal. Man, this battlefield is messy. There's rocks all over the place. Take out my aggression here on some legionaries. Fuck you guys. They're just standing here on point blank, just firing javelins into their friends. About time they fucking got angry at me. But I think this other side will probably work better. We're getting hit here by a lot of arrows. I think if we're on the other side of the ridge, I don't think they'll be able to do this kind of jousting. See all these arrows flying through here? That means basically my strategy is not optimal right now. So again, we'll admit we're wrong here. We'll say, okay, we've got these forces here. Let's use this sharper angle down here, right? Let's put the 4th Corps down here. That's crossbow. The 5th is archers. We will get back to Napoleon and Wellington and the Prussians and marshal forwards, right? We will get back to all the people involved in the Battle of Waterloo and all the other historic elements when we're not doing advanced tactics and trying to explain these advanced tactics. All right, so Peekaboo Ridge. Here's the other thing, though. They have enough infantry and archers, and they're in an odd formation, a super wide spread, that I'm enveloping or considering an enveloping process here. And with this ridge, with this line of sight that's sort of blind around the edges, I was going to say naked. What we might be able to do here is a blind flank, right? A blind flank turn. And this basically is where the enemy can't quite see you until you're already obliterating their flank. Now here, these cavalry are dead men, right? They charged our entrenched position. These guys might as well get off their horse and dig a grave because they're toast, right? This is one of the things the AI is really guilty of. They will send, I almost killed one of our own guys there. They will send 50 cavalrymen to their death as if they were like punished for bad behavior. And not score a single kill. I don't know if they got a single kill there and all their guys got obliterated. No concentrated attack, and they all just get killed. The Lord is in here trying to get killed. So they are moving to the top of the ridge, and we are starting to shoot them, and the death spam shows that. But let me show you what I can do here. See on this side over here? See there's that cliff? That cliff prevents a lot of the enemies from seeing us until we're right over the edge of it. What I can do is I can sweep over there with our shock troop division, right, with a lot of shock troop and strong infantrymen, with a cav division leading. The cav division is there for distraction, but it's also shield and shock, right? They're absorbing arrows. They're sort of catching the enemy's attention. And most importantly, it's screening our forces, right? Now, there's no visuals. The enemy AI sees everything. It's fucking got X-ray vision. But the arrows from all of these archers won't be able to do anything. And because of their formation, this big, long line, we're just going to be able to eat them up like you would with the big red ropes at a movie theater, right? You're just overindulging in sugar. That's what we're going to be able to do here. We're going to be able to overindulge in this Western Empire. In fact, we can pull them out of harm's way, too. They were getting shot right there. We're not going to charge with the center here. We're going to charge at the end, right? We're basically going to hold the lines here as long as the enemy wants to spar with us. We've got more archers, so we're fine with that. We've got that infantry division that eventually will charge, but we just want them holding the enemy's attention, and now comes the blind flank, right? We're going to drag this shock troop division. I see palace guards and other two-handed weapon motherfuckers, and I see the enemy spread out here in a big, thin line, and they're about to experience a very unpleasant counterattack. So cavalry just attacking and screening, and we're going to basically draw them in a line and push them right up the enemy flank. I will have them follow me in this formation and run right through here, right through the enemy forces. And then what we do is simply now we drag that infantry force right with us as well, right? And what we're doing is dragging a line of cavalry that's knocking their archers all over the place. And right behind them, these savage, murdering, axe-handed two motherfuckers, these two-handed axe motherfuckers wade in. There's a handful of guys in there with shields, and the line just gets eaten up, just like I said, just like someone at the movie theater who's just full-on indulging their inner Epicurean and eating every ounce of licorice that the movie theater has, right? And the enemy's running. They're getting massacred. Now we're charging with the 1st Division, right? Now the enemy's fully sandwiched. They're being shot still. Our cav comes in. Our infantry lines meet in the middle, almost like the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, where Aragorn and Aragorn and Eomer meet, right, in the book. If you guys aren't familiar with the book, you need to read the book. Lord of the Rings is one of the best books of all time. The movie was really good. The book's better. And the enemy, just like the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, gets devoured, right? They're all gone. That whole force just vanished. I'm even surprised how effective that was. That was destruction, and we suffered 12 losses. So that's exactly the result we needed here, this destruction of the Southern Empire force, so that now we can turn our wrath on Regia, right? She thought she had forces coming to join her and help with the siege of our castle, think again, Regia. Instead, you're going to see all the nobles of the force that was supposedly going to help you behind the cows, being drugged behind, our, in chains, getting shit on, right? I like that concept. We're going to keep the nobles behind our livestock. That way, if you've ever seen a cow shit and piss, it goes everywhere. It's splattering on rocks. And we'll keep them tightly tied with chains to the back of the cattle train. So in we go here. They're already sieging. It looks like we've got an Aserai force willing to join us here. They sense blood in the water. They are correct. This Southern Empire force is about to be liquidated. In we go. We now have the numerical advantage, or at least the power advantage. And the Southern Empire is about to be fucking destroyed, interrupted by that was the only way they were going to win, is if we had a bug crash. Well, the struggle is real. It happens for me. It doesn't happen very often, but as you can see, it still happens. Now we'll head back and hopefully we can have war with the Khazate. This war between us and the Valandians and having to run all the way across the map has been aggravating. I'm going to propose war. If they don't, I don't know what we'll do. Actually, it's kind of a struggle. I think let's do a recap, because I realize at some point I got to tie these episodes together. For those wondering, let's see, the game crashed. Let's see if I can remember ultimately where it left off. So the game crashed. I had to reload it. I had to fight a couple different battles against the Southern Empire. Ultimately, we destroyed the Southern Empire army, probably the same one that I'm going to include as part of this episode. And then, of course, we captured Regia and mangled their force. We had a couple of battles after that. And then, all of a sudden, the Aserai declared peace with the Southern Empire, much to my chagrin. And the next thing you know, we were only at war with Valandia. So I headed in that direction. I was really uncomfortable leaving Dynustica that whole time. But it is what it is, right? When you're a vassal, you don't have a big sway in control. You can't just declare war and be the one who gets that control, right? This is part of the reason you want to form your own kingdom. But ultimately, we did recover from the disaster of that game crash there. Game crashes, fortunately for me, happen very rarely. I do hear people complaining a lot about crashes. I would say my game crashes once a month. And that's probably 50 or 100 hours of play. So my game is remarkably stable despite all the mods I have. And I think that crashed right there because of the battle size mod. The most crashing mod that I have is the battle size mod, right? Whether it overloads the PC or the game can't figure out all the different spawn points or something. So I may not use that very often in both this practice campaign and the future actual Aserai campaign. Right now, we're just heading back to basically our homeland, to where I plan on declaring my independence. We're hemorrhaging some cash here, but that's because I picked up a companion and loaded him to the gills with good equipment, good armor, and stuff like that. I'm not too worried about the money, although at this stage we are running a deficit on a daily basis. The other thing, too, that I've started to do is I've started to stockpile food in preparation, in anticipation of declaring our own kingdom. What I'm going to do is use Dynustica as our capital. It is a tier 3 wall. So what I'm planning on doing, effectively, my wife gave birth to a baby too. I think you probably missed that part. Is we are going to stockpile massive amounts of food, as well as build up the prosperity there. That way, Dynustica has a very large militia. If you don't know how that process works and the benefits of that, I will go into that very deeply later on, probably during the actual campaign. But it's one of the logistical parts of Bannerlord. You definitely want to have a food storage place where you pile up food, where you could share with other cities that are under duress, under siege, and just to gather yourself, right? If you're captured or you're low on food, if you need to pump up the food supply because they were under siege for a long time, all of these are reasons to have a central base where you have lots of food. And so while we have this sort of calm before the storm, I'm buying all the food at our local cities. And what I mean by local is former enemies, Southern Empire, Khazate. I'm just going around to the various different cities and all the little villages and buying every scrap of food, every sheep, grape. I'm basically acting like those crazed people after the COVID was announced, where they went and bought 87 rolls of toilet paper and all the Hot Pockets they could eat for 10 years. I'm doing that because here it's actually practical. That was illogical. That didn't make any sense. And in a pandemic, you're not going to run out of fucking toilet paper, dipshits. All those people should have been buying like beans and other food that would last in case the supply. Anyways, I'll stay off of that subject. But for Bannerlord, this has a very practical application. If Danustica, for example, gets sieged repeatedly and or the villages get raided, which is very likely to happen, we will have the capacity to just dump thousands of grain on the citizens. We will run some tournaments, and that's the proverbial bread and circuses, right? This is a Roman strategy. If the people were rioting in the street, they would literally give them bread and circuses. They would give them bread or maybe colosseums or whatever, right? And the whole idea is to placate the people. That's what these asshole elitists have always done, and unfortunately it works a lot, right? Today we have, I guess I would say, sports and what else do? They give you a stimulus check and shit like that, right? They try to placate the masses. They give you Netflix, shit like that, right? We've got alcohol and other drugs to escape from the mundane part of life. Back then, of course, they fed people because food was very dear at various times in history. So that's what we're doing here. We're stocking up on food, and now we have war. Now we have war against the Khazate, and that's excellent, right? I know I'm skipping over some parts here that obviously, if I tried to narrate each individual thing here along the way, I'd be interrupting myself. Oh, we're doing road tolls, and I'm going to abstain from this, and I'm going to try to just maintain my train of thought in an often manner, and you can sort of see what's going on, right? If you have a question about something that I sort of gloss over, just ask. I'm not going to narrate each thing like I'm a tour operator. I will narrate as often as I feel it's necessary or when a thought comes to mind, but obviously you guys got to give me a little bit of rope here to wander in my train of thought as well. If I interrupt myself every time something happens, it'll sound like someone with ADHD who badly needs medication instead of a coherent, interesting commentary for this. So we're also stockpiling good troops here at Danustica too, right? Anticipating eventually becoming our own kingdom. One of the things you can guarantee is that when you declare your independence, you will be assaulted by every fucking direction possible. I haven't really come up with a number, but I'm going to try to acquire about 700 or 800 troops, maybe 1,000, before we actually tell everybody, fuck you, we're independent. And that's because the Aserai for sure are going to attack. The Southern Empire is likely to attack. The Khazate's likely to attack, etc. And here, again, all I'm doing is shoving stuff in my stash. I'm like a squirrel in winter, right? We're piling up the nuts in a tree somewhere. The proverbial tree makes me feel secure. And obviously that gives us future food for the difficult times that are surely to come. Now we're managing our army a little bit here before we get some action on the Khazate. I do have these two captains, and I have started to set them up strategically. One of these captains, as you can see, Anidha, she is what I call my destroyer captain. Basically, I like to have one captain generally just be a carrier. It doesn't matter that much what kind of troops they have, although generally I will give them good troops. But the other person, Anidha in this case, I like to give lots of cavalry. And that's because if there are fucks raiding you, what you can do with them is you can release them basically near the raiders. And most of the time they will chase after and run down the raiders because they have lots of cavalry, right? They have lots of movement. That's an important thing. Now, there's a risk when you're a vassal, right? Those troops can actually be sucked up by some of their army saying, give me those troops, right? We're forming an army and I'm demanding they come. But as a kingdom, it's much more effective, right? When you're your own kingdom, you have full capacity to put those troops out there. And unless you have other vassals making armies, they will just do exactly what you want. Well, not exactly what you want, but they will seek out and destroy raiders quite readily. You do have a little bit of control over that, and I will talk about that. Those are some of the things I'm not going to do in this practice run or the final, is run a bunch of very complicated mods that affect AI, right? Affect your companion control. Even though some of them are much better than vanilla, I want to show people how to deal with the nuances of vanilla, and that's because a lot of people play on vanilla, right? Whether you're on a console or mods don't work well for you, or you don't want to play with mods, right? I'm basically going to show as many people as possible before we destroy this Khazate force. how to deal with the nuances of the AI, how to set up companions to destroy the enemy, what not to do, what how to use your companions effectively, etc. We will just engage these fucks head on here. We don't need any help now. We called, and I guess we're not alone. I called a couple of Aserai forces here. We're using a little bit of influence. What's the saying? You gotta spend money to make money. In this case, right, we're spending the influence to make influence, because even though it cost us a bunch of influence to call these couple of parties of Aserai forces, it's going to allow us to utterly devastate this Khazate force. You can pretty much be assured that any time in this campaign where we have an equal number of troops, we're going to smash the enemy. You can see the power bar very slightly favors us. But unless the power bar dramatically favors the enemy, they can't win, right? With the tactics that we're unleashing on the enemy here, this is a disaster for horse archers. There's water everywhere, and so we're going to be able to fucking mangle them, right? We've showed this before in previous episodes, but water and horse archers doesn't mix. It's worse than oil, and these guys are going to be completely torched. So we're running a full 8 divisions now. I know that's probably overwhelming some guys. There will be some times where I run 5 or 6, and I will do that for demonstration purposes. But I wholeheartedly agree that this game is beautiful. I also wholeheartedly agree that if you run 8 divisions, it's more effective than 6. Now, that assumes your capacity to command those units, and I will talk about span of control during the campaign. That's something I have talked about before. There undoubtedly will be some redundancy. I'm not just a creature of originality. I don't just have an endlessly whirring mind of like ingenuity and stuff like that. There will undoubtedly be some stuff that I've already talked about 28 episodes ago, 87 episodes ago. Hopefully you guys can forgive me. The guys that are watching every episode, I applaud you guys. Of course, that's amazing. But obviously you guys have to understand that I am not Wikipedia itself. I will run out of things to talk about, and hence I will talk about some things over and over again. I will try not to beat dead horses. That seems particularly nasty and morbid, like bestiality, only worse. And these guys just died. They're totally fucking engaging us right in front of our shock cavalry with archers already drawing a bead on them, and they're in the water. I mean, this is going to be some green spray right here. Just all the javelins and arrows are raining in, and they're getting scorched. Thank you for coming. Come again another time. And they just lost like 30 troops in 20 seconds. I hear their incompetent commanders yelling, trying to get their crews all rallied. Cut them down! And they have absolutely no chance here, right? They have the same chances of you getting a sample at Costco when there's 5 obese people in front of you. They're going to be out of samples. You're going to have to come back. In we go here. We're going to start blitzing their cav, but we're holding the line here, right? You should recognize this by now. Again, a lot of the tactics are redundant. There's little variations of them, right? There's some subtle differences, the subtle differences in placing your troops and then how you react to the enemies attacking you or what the enemy has for troops. But we are holding a reverse slope decline defense, right? The enemy's charging in here. We just charged with our 3rd Corps. These are shock troops. I did not mention that before. I forgot to mention that. Our 3rd Corps now has like 40 shock troops in it, and about 20 of them are palace guards. So the enemy's in a really bad way when they charge our cavalry, because we have a classic tactic here of shield and shock, right? We've got a line of infantry in the front here, a line of cavalry, and a line of shock troops. The enemy, again, has absolutely no chance of charging this. I will make fat jokes sometimes. I will make skinny jokes sometimes. I won't make a lot of racist jokes. We're definitely not going to be blasting black people or Hispanics or white people or whatever, Chinese people, even though the whole of the U.S. supposedly thinks we're supposed to hate the Chinese. I will be avoiding that stuff. And if I make fun of fat people or something like that and you get upset, either because you are or know somebody who deals with it, understand that obesity runs in my family. I've been fat, and I certainly don't mean it any more derogatory than when I say, fuck you to the guys who don't want me to swear. Just try to understand that I'm aware of part of the reason our country is and Western cultures generally are obese. I don't hate people who are obese. I'm just kind of making off the cuff jokes, basically saying don't be too sensitive about it, even though I understand it's easy for me to say on the other side of the mic, right? If someone was blasting my mom or something like that, I would be probably more sensitive. Getting back to the tactics here, we just enveloped them again. It was the same classic strategy. We pulled our cav and shock troops to the right of the enemy. Actually, it was their left, our right, and now we're just sweeping them through their forces. Of course, this battle was over in the first 30 seconds when we devastated their cavalry and destroyed their horse archers. Right, the Khazate depend on their horse archers and cavalry, and they both got suicided, and now it's just a stream of green in the death column. Their troops run, scatter, and of course, look at the quality of these troops, right? We're going to definitely have to add some mods because the enemy has an awful lot of recruits and guys with sickles and farm implements. They didn't have a chance to win anyways, even if they had all elite troops. And with these troops, it's just a complete massacre. You're probably not even learning very much from this. So just to cap off that point, I do apologize if you are offended, but I'm not also going to watch my mouth too carefully. I don't consider myself a bigot. I don't hate fat people or hate Chinese people or hate hillbillies, but I might make an occasional joke about that, right? I might make a joke about libtards. I might make a joke about the GOP or something like that. Understand, though, that I'm not trying to pick on one individual group of people, right? That's not something I'm going to do. I'm also not going to choose a politic. I'm not going to tell you this is the guy you should vote for. Liberals are stupid, or the GOP is a bunch of morons. Fuck them. I'm not going to do that. I know some guys want me to do that, but that's just not going to be part of the channel. Maybe someday if I have a podcast and 10,000 people think they're listening to Sean Strickland and they want me to go on racist rants, we'll see. But as of today, we're going to keep things clean. We're going to have a good time here. We're going to butcher everything in sight like we've been doing. Hopefully you guys will learn a little bit of history. Hopefully it'll improve your character, right? I think character improvement is something that we're all always trying to do. We're trying to thicken our skin. At the same time, we're trying to be sensitive to people who don't have thick skin, right? You want to be the person that's hard to offend, but it's also important to remember that some people are easily offended, and that doesn't mean that I'm going to completely change how I act, but I'm going to respect the fact that they're sensitive, right? I'm not going to intentionally aggravate them or call them a snowflake or whatever it is, right? We're going to respect people's beliefs here, even if I don't agree with them. All right, we are rampaging at this stage on the Khazate. The Khazate are reeling. This is a steamroller situation, right? We're trouncing their army one after another, and now we have all the momentum. This actually resembles 1806 after Napoleon crushed the Prussians at the Battle of Jena Auerstadt, I think is the pronunciation of it. It was actually two battles. One of the battles was a force that Marshal Davout crushed a force twice the size of him while Napoleon fought a smaller force. And after that, the Prussians were completely shattered. Napoleon and the rest of his elite marshals and the French completely pursued the Prussians to oblivion. And that was pretty much it, right? The Prussians were toast. They were out of the Prussian war. And it shows the power of speed, right? The Blitz. The Blitz is effectively what the Nazis were really good at. They were very good at quickly attacking and overwhelming you at a location. And of course, they did it via the air and all different ways. But the idea is still the same as military history. You attack the enemy so quickly that they're taken off by the speed of the attack. And they're once they're on their back foot, just like in boxing, they've basically lost the rest of the match, or at least that series of exchanges, because they're on their back foot. Do a little bit of unit consolidation. But I think I'm going to wrap this episode up. You can kind of see at this stage, if the next time you see an episode, we have half of the Khazate forces, you will understand, right? We are absolutely trucking and steamrolling our way into the Khazate right now. I'm going to build up a little bit of influence, a little bit of gold, and hopefully another couple cities. And maybe the next time you see an episode on our little pre-campaign run here, we are about to declare our independence and say, fuck you to everybody, right? Ready to offend everybody. So with all that said, I'm going to wrap this up here. I appreciate you fellas, even you sensitive fellas. I appreciate all you guys. Please like and subscribe and all the normal things I say at this stage. And I will see you friends next time.